you so much for coming. Oh, I look so happy in here, so much smile in here, yeah? So thank you for coming, and thank you for Bali Praia also to give a chance
Check.
for Tribe Theory having a partnership event in here. And thank you for everyone who coming in here. Give applause, please. Okay, first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Natasha from Tribe Theory, Connect, Inspire, and Empower, if you see here. Oh, oh. Okay, thank you so much for coming, because tonight we will both learn about and share together about young entrepreneur and then how to start your business. But before we start, if I ask who have running their own business in here, raise your hand. Awesome. Or who want to start the business here? Now, more quiet now here. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Let me short explain about our Tribe Theory. Yeah? Tribe Theory is a global entrepreneurial ecosystem. We are a community curated and business friendly global hostel chain designed to cater to the traveling startup, digital nomad, creative, and entrepreneurial community. We have been in 5 countries now, so if you come to Bali, please visit Bali Praia and then visit Tribe Theory Hostel also, okay? We are together now, official partnership, yeah. We are having in Bali, Singapore, Yangon, Bangalore, and Tallinn. So every time you come to these 5 countries, just come and then just ask you are part of the community also. Okay, so without any further ado, please welcome CEO of Bali Praia, Mikey Moran.
Check, check. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here. It's been, wow, it's quite a turnout. And thank you for spending time with us on this fine Thursday evening. I would like to, first of all, thank Tribe Theory. I only just discovered you guys recently. And fully support the movement and what you guys are doing. So I decided to do this, and it's very apparent to everyone that's here on how to start a business and being a successful entrepreneur. So super thrilled to be here, and awesome to connect with what seems to be a room of fine, bright individuals. So thank you. And my name is Michelangelo Moran, and today I'll be talking about young entrepreneur and how to start a business. So a bit of an overview. I'll be talking a little bit about my past, how it is that the journey that I got to get to where I am today. I think it's important to share one's journey and one's background. I boil it down also to 5 key business learnings, backed up with examples of what I faced with GO-JEK and Bali Praia and other businesses that I started. So let's get right to it. An important point to note is that I don't have all the right answers, and there is no right answer to this. Every business is different that you start. It's your own journey that you have to go through. And it's important that everyone does their own research. Always keep learning. It's good to not only use the internet as a source of learning, but also get out there, network, meet other people, exchange ideas. It's very, very important to find ways of collaborating and building your following. The more you grow as an individual, the more ready you are to take on the obstacles that the business will get at you. So a little bit about me. I was born in Jakarta, grew up in Singapore, studied in United World College, and then where I got a business degree in Boston University in marketing and finance. I got another degree later on, but then in between the 2 degrees, I started DJing. And when you build your career as a DJ professionally, you network very fast and you meet a lot of people very fast. It kind of like tests you as an individual on how to handle people. It was a great way of also promoting my business. I remember making business card size, and it said like, what is GO-JEK? And then it showed like the 4 different services, how to order it, what is it about. And I was just like bringing it to all my gigs. And you know, we only had at that time 150 drivers that are active, no funding, so we had nobody wearing jackets. And so, you know, you had to go back to the grassroots of promoting a business. And then I worked in fashion retail for a little bit. Mom and dad were one of the pioneers to bring one of the first, if not the first, international brand into Indonesia, and that was Levi Strauss in 1966. I worked in corporate. That was not my scene, so I got out of it. I worked in event space, dealing with DJs and clubbing, and also corporate as well, where I was doing everything from like product launches, I was doing magazine advertisements, I was doing restaurant openings, where again, I learned a lot and I met a lot of people. From here, it inspired me to become a designer. So life really started in 2008, where I studied I studied digital design in Academy of Art University. Over there, I was doing everything, the whole 9 yards of digital design. We're talking like audio, video, photography, like you name it, I was doing it. And then fast forward to 2010, my best friend Nadeem, who is the co-founder and CEO of GO-JEK, he basically came up and he was like, hey man, I got a great idea. And he submitted the business plan for me, which at that time was called Go-Bike. It wasn't called GO-JEK yet. And so I invested. I also branded the whole company because I was studying digital design. I was the guy that made the logo. I was the guy that made the website, the helmets, the jackets, and then we launched the project. One thing, little inside scoop that probably nobody knows about, because I'm a DJ, I wanted music on the website. I wanted a music player. I was like, yo, let's make this brand cool, you know? Like you could, like, you know, browse around of what GO-JEK's about, have deep house playing in the background or something like that, but did it launch? Hell no. All right, so quotes start you guys off. Just as I did with my own story, I didn't really find what I wanted to do till later on. And as the late Steve Jobs said, the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking, don't settle. I saw, I think, a portion of this room that is still trying to figure out how to start businesses or what you want to start. You got to be passionate about it. You got to love what you do. So that goes into my next point, and that is to stop dreaming and start doing. First of all, you just need to get shit done, you know? It's one of those things where you really got to love what you do, live, breathe, and talk about your business. In the end, what you represent is your brand. Talk to your family, talk to your friends. Like, are they buying into the idea? Are you know, look at competition. What is your unique selling point? How are you doing better than what everyone else is doing? This is a big one. Don't procrastinate. I've heard of people saying, well, we haven't done this because we haven't gone to that. Well, you're basically delaying the process, you know? Best example, I mean, you know, I'm very, very sure a lot of people had the GO-JEK idea before us. I had multiple people calling me only when GO-JEK was blowing up. This was like 4 or 5 years later. We already had the app. And they were like, hey, man, I thought about GO-JEK. Such a great idea. I wanted to do it. But I'm like, but you didn't do anything about it. We were the ones that put it together, and we had kind of like our creative realm on making this happen. Remember to balance passion with wisdom and also reason. Don't overkill yourself. It's all about the baby steps. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. Think about what the worst that could happen. This happens in pretty much, like I've heard, like half of the businesses that actually come about fail within the first 5 years of operation. So how can you handle having no money? How can you handle just things going south? Maybe have a backup plan. And most of all, think about impact. How is it that you're affecting people's lives? Is there a gap in the market? Are you trying to solve a problem? And then, just on a personal note, you need to know your elevator pitch. It's like, if you're put in a situation, I was in a conference in Sweden, I was all alone. There was CEOs, there was VCs, like all these people that were there. And you exchange eye contact, so you're like, hey, what's up? And then they're like, oh, what do you do? State your business, where are you from? And you gotta be ready to put your game face on, you know? Like, and not only just state your business, your core values, your vision, everything needs to be etched in your brain. And don't just say it, you gotta be passionate about it. You need to sell people on why you exist, which goes on to my next point. Discovering your why. When people discover the why in business, it means you're discovering your purpose, your cause, your belief. I just had the CEO of Nusa Chana. They're like a tropical rum. They're blowing up. They just started like 3-4 years ago. We're looking to collaborate with them. And he's like, man, I came into Bali Praia and I didn't know what was going on, but then I read that. And there's a statement that basically says like, we are, a lounge, a record label, a studio, a cafe, and we aim to provide a creative hub for artists and DJs to connect, share, grow as individuals. And he got it right away. He's just like, all right, I got this. I also want to talk about GO-JEK. A lot of people were asking me, I think you were asking me like, hey, how did you start GO-JEK? I'm like, okay, we'll leave that presentation because I think everyone's going to be asking me that. So it all started with my best friend, Nadim. He basically worked in a company called McKinsey. And he was given an office car. He was given a driver. But he never used it. He was like, man, screw traffic. I want to just like use the infrastructure of motorcycle taxis known as GO-JEKs were already apparent in Jakarta. So then he basically like was using a motorcycle taxi guy that was right outside of his house, and he built a relationship with him. He already had him on speed dial. And then he was like discovering that there were ways to use the motorcycle taxi outside of transport, right? So he would forget his USB, he would forget his computer, and he like, hey man, can you like deliver this for me? And then he was a smoker. So he asked the GO-JEK guy, hey, can you buy me cigarettes? So then the guy can also do some shopping. And then now the function of a motorcycle taxi is multifunctional. It's not just transport yet. So then he invited the guy out for coffee, and he was like, hey, I want to learn about your business. How does it all work? So he found out two very big fundamental facts. The first is that GO-JEKs are territorial. So in a city of 20 million people in Jakarta, I'm going to use Bali's places as a reference. If you're going from like Seminyak to like Oberoi, and then that guy drops the customer off, he can't pick up a customer in Seminyak, in Oberoi anymore. He has to go back to his station in Seminyak. The second thing is that there's a big queuing system. So if he goes back to his station in Seminyak and there's 20 drivers, he can't pick up his customer until all 20 drivers have done the customer. So this guy on an average day would start at like 8 a.m. and then like, end at 10 p.m. where he probably got like 5 customers, even at best. And he's making like $20 a day. And we're like, man, this is so inefficient. What if we created a system where we can give you drivers to your mobile phone? It wasn't smartphone yet. And we take a cut out of it. The guy was like, well, what if we pick up passengers on the road? And we're like, well, that's your business, and we're not going to take a cut out of it. We interviewed about 20 drivers, and they all said, all right, this is a win-win situation. Let's do this. So that was the idea. The second thing is that we needed a system. We hired some guy. He was from outside of Jakarta, and we basically built like an interface in a computer that was just like, all right, we need a from field and a to field, and then it calculates. You have to pick the service first, transport, courier, or shopping. It calculates the distance, and based on the distance, calculates the price. So then you had the way of dispatching and calculating that order. And then we needed a fleet. And then so we asked family and friends, we're like, hey, who of you guys use GO-JEKs? And then so we tried to round up from like, the network that we knew. We grew from 0 to 20 in 2 weeks. That is ultra slow. We need to figure out how to do this fast. So we told those 20 drivers, who are still actually part of GO-JEK, and we said, hey, we want you to round up more GO-JEK drivers, and we'll pay you a commission for every driver that gets signed up. We went from 20 to 200 in another 2 weeks. So we finally launched the service in 2011 in January. Our main pillars at the time is like what your company believes in and what you want to portray to your customers is speed, innovation, and social impact. So you as customers would know that, hey, like I want to go from point A to point B fast. I want to get my food very, very fast. But we in GO-JEK knew that every single order that you made positively impacted people's lives. And that is why we exist. We wanted to not only impact, but we wanted to show our stories. I remember the first driver documentary that was just like showing about, hey man, like it was rough before I joined GO-JEK. Like I didn't have money to feed my family. I didn't have money for my son's like college education. I didn't have money for even a wedding. And so with all these positive and impactful experiences, it made such a difference. And then with that idea in mind, it translated to the other services that we put together. So a lot of you don't know that GO-JEK is not all this like multi-services thing. We actually started with 3. It's just transport, career, and shopping. And we put career at the top because we thought that was going to be the best service. I mean, we were dealing with like people like, oh yeah, I'm not going to ride a GO-JEK because of hygiene. But we, in a way, later, we fixed that problem by, giving like hair nets and proper helmets and all that stuff. But it kept changing with the amount of services that we put together with the OJEKs. Now I want to talk a little bit about scale. With each service that we were giving out, we were always grabbing a new market. I remember getting phone calls from people that were just like, hey, I love what you guys are doing. I love GO-JEK, but I didn't use your service till you launched GoFood. My mom never used GO-JEK until Go Massage came out. I had to explain to her, I'm like, Mom, it's not the drivers that are going to give you a massage and all that. But as we expanded, we still went back to the why, the social impact. But this time, you got glamours, you got masseuses, you got businesses. It all shows that you can kind of like benefit everyone because of the ecosystem that they're signed up to. It goes to show that you have to evolve your business based on supply and market demand. So that's why you got to always keep evolving. We made sure that we were always staying ahead of the competition. And we were doing that by always innovating. I don't need to mention who our competition is. I'm pretty sure you guys know who that is. I always say that GO-JEK's success is circumstantial to where and when we started it as well. It's like if we started the app in 2010, the most powerful phone in the market was a BlackBerry. We had to wait for the market to catch up to Androids and iPhones. We also focused on Indonesia, a language and culture that we knew how to deal with, an OJEK infrastructure that was already there. Think about it, we have 250 million people, and we were getting like phone calls from Europe, Brazil, everywhere. It's like, oh, you got to expand GO-JEK here. And we're like, why do we need to go over there? This is the market that we need to focus on. And because of that focus, GO-JEK excelled. Because of Grab, I'm going to mention the name now. Because of our competition, we excelled because we had to be ahead of the game. Right now, to give you an idea of scale, we had about 400 drivers when we started HAP. Now we're 2.5 million. We had 0 downloads when we started. We now serve 261 million people. And we're in 1 in 15 companies in the world that do more than 1 million orders a day. That's like more than I think latest numbers is like more than 100 million orders a month. I cannot say that we cannot go back to a time before there was GO-JEK. I think there was like people trying to make marketing campaigns and be like, hey, what if GO-JEK ended? But don't worry, GO-JEK's here to stay. So I want to talk about marketing. Anything that gets customers is marketing. So start you off with a quote again. Every marketer's goal is to reach the customer at the moment they are most influenced to buy. We need to be where they are. So given it's 2019, how do we achieve this? Where should a big portion of your marketing go into? And that is digital. They say the average US adult spends about 3 hours and 43 minutes on a mobile device in 2019, which is even more than people watching TV now. So why go digital? You have a global reach at a much lower cost. You can personalize your ads based on consumer behavior. Digital marketing is measurable. You can look at your analytics from Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and then figure out what ads are getting the most reach and engagement, and then try to devise a strategy to make sales based on that. In relevance to online content, you look at the timeline of when people check your devices. This was very apparent when GoFood launched. We were always pushing ads at like 11:30 because then you know that people are most likely going to be ordering then. Gary Vaynerchuk said, he said that if you're not putting out content, relevant content in relevant places, then you don't exist. Think about when you should be pushing the ads. Think when is the right time to even send newsletters. Do some A/B testing, which is basically how you're pushing different kind of ads to the same, I guess, like population. And then from there, you can analyze the effectiveness of the ad, and then you can convert it to sales. So then we should go on how you should be advertising. Marketing used to be all about pushing products, hard selling. Hey, buy me, buy me. Now people want to hear about how it relates to them, how it makes them feel. The shift is from rational to emotional content. I saw an article about Coca-Cola recently. They switched their CMO in 2011, and he was basically shifting from impressions to expressions. They called the marketing strategy liquid and linked, and that means liquid by means of you creating compelling stories and sharing, and then linked that it was linked to your business strategy. Emotions are key drivers behind our everyday decisions, so you need to tap into that. As I said, marketing is not about the stuff that you make, but the stories that you tell. How can it be more impactful on your delivery? Well, make high quality content from videos, from photography. If you can't do it, outsource it. For example, GO-JEK social media used to be all about promos. This is what maybe a business tactic, if you're working in tech, could be a strategy that you want to be implementing. Basically, when we introduced the GO-JEK app, everyone got a promo code. So you downloaded the app, and then you add a promo code, you give it to him. He gets 50,000. He just got free money to try the GO-JEK app. And back then, there was no tech company that was out there that was like the pedestal of, that everyone looked up to in Indonesia. If you're in a third world country, you have an app like GO-JEK, people are like 95% chance this is going to fail. You order your GO-JEK, the guy goes through the window, the guy enters your place, and you're like, wow, this is the most amazing thing. But the kicker is that you just gave her 50,000. So that promo code, you could be giving it to him, to him, to him, to him, to her. There was no limit on how many times you could give that code, but you can only give the code to Hagen once. Everyone was putting their code on Facebook, on Twitter. We were burning cash like crazy. But, hey, the downloads were happening and people were using our service. So, from embrace your laziness and all this like really, really pushing, now GO-JEK has moved into driver profiles, social impact, stories of impact. It then gives people pride of supporting your product. And then if you're unsure on your marketing, just try it, collect feedback. Try it with a smaller kind of like, try it with a variety of audiences. Try it with smaller audiences. And then you'll know whether you're heading to the right direction. And then what marketers need to keep in mind is that the conversion optimization is a process. It's not a moment. Your company needs to prioritize long-term relationships above sales. So after you make the content, think about what is the follow-up process. I just looked up online about School of Scratch, and I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty interesting. And I signed up. I just signed up and I said, okay, I'm interested in the package. First, they pushed me with a video. And they're like, oh, yeah, are you interested? Should you sign up? I'm like, nah, I'm not really. And then they'll push you with another video. And then they're like, oh, man. And then the third one is like, we're actually slashing prices for you. It's like you just got to keep going. Because this thing is is long term. That's your conversion goal. If it's short term, then great. But not everyone is an impulse buyer. Leverage all channels. Are you just doing online? Think about offline as well. I was mentioning in the beginning, network. Get your brand out there. social media can only go so far. And then scale so that it builds the brand. GO-JEK was one of those companies that the more you scale, the more brand equity was increasing. The more drivers and businesses we serve, the more impactful the stories that we can tell. Your goal is to make the content so good that people share and talk about it for free. And that is what virality is all about. So this is another thing that... Who remembers this? Does anybody remember GoDate? Okay, I'll tell you about it. It is what it is. Imagine Tinder for GO-JEK. Tinder in GO-JEK, sorry. But we took it to the next level. You could pick hair color. You could put like height and weight and like all this stuff. And we created a video. It's only one catch. It was an April Fool's joke. That shit went so viral. Everybody was on it. They're like, oh my God, this is so amazing, blah, blah, blah. I remember a story of like our CMO. He was coming home from Singapore, and the immigration officer even figured out that he was from GO-JEK. And he's like, hey man, I updated my app, and where's GO-JEK? He's like, that was an April Fool's joke. And yeah, that's basically, you want to create good content in order to be spreading virality. I mean, it basically increased brand awareness for GO-JEK. We've hit some crazy numbers on that video, and then so more and more people know about it. All right, we're gonna talk about data. I like this quote: "Marketing without data is like driving with your eyes closed." It is through data collection that a business or management has qualitative information that they need to make informed decisions. In GO-JEK's case, it was real-time data. You make a marketing campaign, it directly affects your orders. But for others, look at what your customers are thinking. Do contact forms, do surveys, do event signups, reach out to them. What are they liking about your product? What are they not liking about your product? How can you improve it? According to an online IT survey, if a decision is made relying on data rather than pure intuition, your chances of success is 79%. 79% higher, sorry. So do it. So you have your data, now what? You need to analyze on what gives you the maximum ROI, return on investment. Think about how it can translate to sales. If you don't know how to do it, hire a data specialist or outsource. You can sort out customers based on behavior or cohorts, as they say. Then you can spark new ideas and strategies based on this, what you should push out to them based on what they like or what they don't like. Remember, your objective is to always convert sales, always be closing. I'll tell you a simple story about GoFood as well. So you saw the original app only had 3 services: courier, ride, and shopping. And then we wanted to do a deep dive on GoShop because we were like trying to figure out, okay, what is it that people buy the most? And it was food. So we're like, all right, why don't we make this experience better for people? We basically sent out a survey. I think at that time it was like, I don't know, we're probably at maybe 20,000 downloads. This is after 3 months of like launching the app. And we asked them, what is your favorite food, from like street food to fine dining? So you know that people love these restaurants. The demand is already there. We looked online for the menu and we just put it out there without asking restaurants. This is Indonesia. You can do whatever you want. And then I remember, this is like a case study of just 4 weeks from launching the app, there was, you guys know this dessert called martabak? It's like a kind of like a cream cake thing that we sell in Jakarta. I don't know if they have it here. Within 4 weeks, a chain on GoFood hit $80,000. And so there you go. With the right data, with the right analysis, it can spark an idea. And then I like this quote from Bill Gates: "Your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning." If you want to start your startup to thrive, Pay attention to your dissatisfied customers. They are your best hope to learn about your flaws in your products and services so you can easily rectify. Think about it. Clients leave because their expectations are not met. So learn from them and how to tweak your business so that they can stay and buy your products. The important part is to make sure that they are heard as well, you know, and then do what you can to delight the customer. This is such an important aspect of customer service. And then the last thing is this idea called intrapreneurship. It's how to manage your employees for maximum impact. This is something that's more than just a concept. It's actions that are executed that increase productivity and profitability. They are not from the founder of the company. These are the people who, unlike the entrepreneur, focuses internally on the business. The entrepreneur focuses externally on the business. Yet the two are very linked. The key part to all this is empowering people on making decisions. You don't have to micromanage. It's about building characteristics so that they act on their own. Reward the right behaviors. Make them stand out for what they just did. They will feel pride and earn your trust. Something that you might run into is a little bit of ego or something that maybe they can't be bothered. Well, this is you as a leader needs to just set the culture of what you want the company to be. This culture of ego has to be eliminated. And you need to emphasize the importance of teamwork. After going through all this process, you will get more productivity and trust, and that's what you need in the workforce. GO-JEK was one of the first offices in Jakarta that did the open seating plan. We gave people the facilities and resources to have them work to the best of their ability. With this ease, though, everybody was always challenged. KPIs were unreal, but they had to pull together in order to achieve these higher transactions. You're all part of the same team, so leverage that. All right, so I'm going to conclude. Just kind of wrap things up. As I said, the first thing, get shit done. Nothing's going to happen if you just think about the idea. The characteristic of a successful entrepreneur is to act. Think about the problem that you're trying to solve. Are you doing it better than everyone else? Think about emotional advertising. It's the driving force that gets people to buy your product. Data, data, data. Always collect, find new strategies on how to increase sales. And then remember to always be closing. And the last thing, delegate your workforce. You hired them for a reason. If they're not performing on what you hired them to do or told them what to do, then you hired the wrong person. Don't micromanage. Let them become leaders. So I just want, since everyone's trying to learn about the tech space, I listened to a bunch of these this past week, and GO-JEK has a podcast. It basically talks about the stuff that you go through in running a tech company, everything from growth to organizational principles, product design. Some of them are long. I mean, I think it's like over an hour, but check it out. Nadim is always in every episode. He brings in a couple of guests that are people working in the company. So check that out. And then another app that I use is Blinkist. I don't know if you guys know about this, but it's definitely valuable information. We all want to learn, and we all want to learn fast. And basically, it takes books that basically they shrink into a 15-minute Audible. And you can either read them or you can listen to them. So categories from personal development, motivation, history, you name it, it's all there. So I will end with the impossible journey is the one that you never begin. If you're thinking of starting a biz, and people who are already business people, I hope that this has been insightful, and I hope you've learned a lot from this presentation. There's a lot to cover, but as I said, always do your research, network, be passionate about what you do, and I wish you all the best on your journey. So thank you for everyone for being here. We have a little bit of a fire chat interview, I believe.
Awesome. Oh, nice session ya. By the way, I like GO-JEK date. I wish they have, yeah? Ooh, that will
Go
be so
date?
hot, yes. Go that.
Maybe down in the pipeline.
Maybe in the pipeline, yes, I wish. So, we will have a question. So, Mikey, we have some question here. So, the first thing, as an entrepreneur who might be developing business or want to start, what step are the starting point? Idea or funds or budget? Or there are any other things based on your experience also from GO-JEK and from Bali Praia also?
Um, I think with every business, it starts with a great product. You know, you really, really need to etch this and provide something that is valuable to other people. Um, Best example, you have warungs here in Bali who have great food. It's not really a great place to eat at, but it's always packed. So you start with a great product. And then from the idea, you get into your business plan, you get into your business model. How do you make money out of it? And then you look into budgeting. You look into startup costs. You look into operational costs. If you can, try to secure, 2 years of operational budget, because as I said, everything can't be, I guess, amazing in the first year. If you did, that's amazing. But if not, you gotta be ready for things going south. And then, based on my experience with Bali Praia and GO-JEK, and even small properties that I started out, there's a few key people that you want underneath your belt. You got to have an admin, someone in marketing, someone in operations, and then of course yourself as the leader of the pack. And then with GO-JEK, of course, we invested in tech as well.
So, who do you think is a founder? Because some of them is running their own business, some of them is a founder also, or maybe they want to start become a founder. So, in your opinion, who is the founder?
The founder is the guy that basically got the company up and running. It could be a collective of people, hence they are the co-founders, but the founder is the guy with the idea, you know? And there are characteristics for a founder as well. Like, you gotta be creative, you gotta be innovative, you gotta be determined, you gotta be fearless, you know? And it kind of like, you just have to, when things go south, don't throw yourself, like don't take it to heart. I mean, it's, as I said, there are going to be a lot of obstacles thrown in the way, and as a founder, you just need to know that if you really believe in the idea, it doesn't matter what obstacle is going to be thrown at you. You got to push it all the way.
I like it, by the way. So how much money is needed and for what? Speaking with startup, or someone will start the business, or maybe like me, I'm running my own startup. So of course, the end of it is a funding, right?
Yep.
And then some entrepreneurs usually have difficult how they can get the fund, or when they have to take care of the investment they receive.
Okay.
Like are crucial things for the startup.
All right, this is a multi-part question. Are we going into like how much does it cost to like start a business, basically? Well, it's circumstantial to where you're starting it, right? I know the costs in Indonesia. We were basically looking at, 6 million to get like an akta, which is your company deed. You're getting 10 million to make a national permit, 30 million to get the local permit. That's the banjar and all these other people that you gotta pay off over here. But I would say it really depends on your business. Everything is different, right? And then when it comes to the funding, this is when a really, really concise business plan is needed. Like, think about your business idea, your products and services that you're about to offer, marketing, operations, and then think about your org structure, who do you want in the company, and then your financials as well. You know what I mean? And then if you're looking into securing funding, first possible kind of like, I guess, like network, you look at family and friends, Do they buy into the idea? Is anyone resourceful with money to be able to help you with this? And then if that doesn't work out, there are online websites like GoFundMe. If you have a great idea, people are going to be backing you up. go to seminars, conferences where there are startup conferences as well. Present your idea, you know, and if you win it, then you'll get some funding as well. So I think that's my best advice.
Awesome. Someone want to ask? Okay, I will go with you. Excuse me.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Demi. So you said you had a competitor. So did you monopolize any location? If so, how did you do it? What was the difference?
Well, I think if one of the things that I also think about why GO-JEK is so ahead is we have first mover advantage, right? We already were establishing our place in Jakarta. Our competitor did not launch till 4 months later after we started, which in that time we were already live in 4 cities. So people were already kind of like getting to know GO-JEK. I think the harder part was actually the war between OJEKs and GO-JEKs. So you have kind of like a system that has been inherited like for like ages where people are there and they have a way of making money, and then you have this new company with new tech and they're just like, hey man, you're invading my space, right? And with that happening, it was war. It was like violence, people were getting killed, people were getting beaten up. So actually, you asked me this question, and what we did was we had kind of like non-GO-JEK uniform fleets, like almost like a covert operations, you know? We basically sent them to these hostile places because we had to show them, we're like, hey, you know, I know that with OJEKs you get money right away. And with us, there are medical benefits. You can actually earn more money. You're all part of this group. We're all part of the support system. And slowly by slowly, we were converting those hostile environments. It was a very, very long and harsh war, but in the very end, people were converted. So I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. Anyone? Okay.
Hey, Mikey. My name is Olumide, founder of the Digital Nomad Summit. My question for you is, in the start, when did you know? Like, when did you know like this was going to be big? When did you know this was? I'm sure as an entrepreneur, you believe in yourself, but was there some sort of inflection point, something on the graph that you're like, oh, this is it? Just curious.
I get asked this question like, hey, did you ever think GO-JEK was going to be this big? And you never know. But I do remember 2 very, very, very important moments. When our competitor launched, they just gave out free rides. They were just like, free rides for everybody. We didn't have any promo. We just had, like, GO-JEK prices were actually very, very expensive. And we're like, okay, how do we beat this? So we launched a marketing campaign where it was called Chaban Ramadan, which means for every single GO-JEK ride or service or anything that you paid with GO-JEK, it was 10,000 rupiah. All of a sudden, GO-JEK demand was like, phew, And of course, again, we were burning cash like crazy. And how do we offset this demand, right? It was like, dude, I remember getting phone calls from people. They're like, man, my driver of 15 years quit to become a GO-JEK driver. My security of my building quit to become a GO-JEK driver. At the peak of this demand, a GO-JEK driver was earning anywhere from 15 to 20 million, or that's like the peak. You can earn anywhere from 10 and above. Without a college education, without high school education, that's far in Indonesia. So we had to offset this demand. I remember this so clearly because it happened on my birthday. We're like, okay, anyone who wants to become a GO-JEK driver, come on down. We got a space in the National Stadium, and bring your documentation and we'll sign you right up. Our competitor had something down the road. Guys, we were hiring anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 drivers a day for 1 month. All of a sudden, supply increased like crazy. We just knew that, all right, everybody loved GO-JEK, right? That's the first story. The second story is that I remember waking up one day, and I don't know if you guys follow the GO-JEK story because this was a big one, but the Minister of Transport banned all online booking of transport, which means Uber was affected, Grab was affected, GO-JEK was affected, and yeah, and then we were like, wow, business, might not have a job tomorrow. They were even stopping GO-JEK drivers on the road to seize operations. We're like, oh snap. This happened, if the news happened at 12 a.m., at 7 a.m., the governor spoke out and was just like, I call upon the Minister of Transport to undo this law because it's not fair what you're doing. GO-JEK's already done a lot for the country, for the city, and blah, blah, blah. Like, all right, cool, we got the government's backing. 3 hours later, the president spoke. The president was like, call upon the Minister of Transport to reverse this law. GO-JEK's done a lot for the economy. It's impacted so many people's lives, and we need to reverse this law. On the 11th hour, 11 hours after that news came out, he undid that law. And I was like, all right, I guess we have the power of the people. Oh, I forgot to mention one thing. This is even before the governor, is that when the news came out, people were already sounding it on Facebook and Twitter and everything. Uber and Grab were not even mentioned, but hashtag GO-JEK became a worldwide trending topic on Twitter. So you have the people, you have the governor, and you have the president. So that's when I knew. And social media, I guess. So yeah.
Awesome. So Mikey, because you know, this is kind of like a thing, a young entrepreneur who doing their business, right? So what is the good strategy for the marketing? Like you start the Bali Praia and then from the GO-JEK also. So what is the good strategy marketing? Like
Well,
from the
I was
beginning?
telling before about, like, you know, coming from this honest place, telling the stories. I mean, in the very end, you are trying to provide a product and service, and the way you need to make sure that the customers are actually going to buy it is you need to know your customers. You need to know about what is it that they like about you, what is it that they don't like about you. Tweak your product to make sure that people are actually going to buy into it, you know, and that's done through market research, and just always be tweaking that as well. So yeah.
Anyone to ask? Wow.
Hey, thanks for very interesting talk. So I would like to ask about, from financial wise, the strategy of fundraising for GO-JEK. Like, how did you guys do it in the first earlier years of GO-JEK? Did you guys bootstrap? And what is the best time for you, you think, for startups or entrepreneurs out there to pitch their idea or to fundraise through venture capital? So do you guys bootstrap first, and then after you see some right moment, right momentum, then you go to pitch to VC?
Well, to be really honest, I wasn't part of the fundraising team. But I could tell you the journey that we went through, and that we basically put in $100,000 into the company to actually make it just happen. But again, there's GO-JEK 1.0 and there's GO-JEK 2.0. The fundraise that we did was just to make GO-JEK exist in 2010. But at that particular time, even though we had 400 drivers, we only had 150 that was active. We couldn't even increase past 400 orders because at the peak of our operations, we had 6 people picking up the phone and 6 people dispatching. I mean, sorry, maybe I didn't explain that earlier, but the early stages of GO-JEK was that you didn't have an app, you had a call center. And so that was the way of booking GO-JEK. And then through Nadim's kind of, I guess, like connections, he had people that were working in private equity, and they were the ones that actually told him. Because Nadim, even though me and Nadim set up GO-JEK together, we weren't actively managing it. We're kind of managing it from the side. We just knew that this was a product that people needed, right? And then, given that happening, the private equity people are saying, Nadim, what are you doing? This could be $1 billion company. I mean, even $1 billion, like, we're just like, wow, are you kidding me? And they're like, and he's like, you and Mikey need to get back into the company and you need to make this happen. So with that said, again, everything goes with timing, because if we were given this money in 2010, maybe it wouldn't have been as successful as what it is right now. But we got private equity, and then from there we spoke to VCs, and then from there, I mean, the sky's the limit, right? It's just like, as soon as you're ready in the marketplace with the right product, orders are increasing, and if people are seeing this rapid growth rate, people want to jump into it, right? I remember we were doing videos with Facebook, Google, like pretty much everyone, and all these tech companies were coming up and saying like, man, we've been all over the world and we have not seen a growth rate like this. So we were doing something right. And then as more news was coming along with, with the president and all that, I guess people were just knowing about it and people wanted to jump into it. So that's my best answer. I wasn't part of fundraising, I'm sorry.
Anyone? Ooh, so much.
Quick, I've got a question about intellectual property. So how do you go from the stage of you've got a great idea, you've hired developers, you've got code, and yet you want to talk about it, but you also feel like you need to keep it close to the chest? Is it possible to take an app and like trademark, patent that type of thing, or is it really about first to market at that point and just beat the other guys in terms of speed and don't worry about that type of stuff?
Well, we were setting up tech when there was nobody in tech at the time. Mobile apps in Indonesia were not a lot of people were doing this type of space, right? So in terms of what you're talking about, yes, it was first mover advantage, and then later on, I think we started to think about patent. We started thinking about trademarks and all that because GO-JEK was just growing so fast. Yeah, I wasn't part of the tech team either, so I'm not sure how to answer your question.
Next.
Thank you. I just have a quick question about scaling. Like, was there ever a time when you were like moving forward, taking giant leaps of faith, and you felt like, what if it doesn't land? Like, what if we go and try and make GO-JEK 2.0 and you throw everything into it and you're just like, sometimes it feels like you're jumping off of a cliff and just hoping that you land in the water. Did you ever feel like you were taking some giant leaps and you were afraid, like, what happens if it doesn't work?
I think that was very apparent with Go Life, with the masseuses and the cleaners and all that. But then we were thinking to ourselves, all right, you have this fleet of motorcycle taxis that you can basically use for anything. And why not be the first mover in providing this, Like, there is a need from, Go Glam is a little bit very out there, but masseuses and cleaners, yes, it was very apparent. And again, we stuck to our social impact, right? Well, how can we help people? And that's basically what we stuck what we stuck with. I'm trying to remember if there was some pretty crazy things that we did. To my knowledge, GO-JEK was always new services and things that we did were always done through market research and demand. So we made sure that the demand was there before we actually launched anything. And then also kind of like staying ahead of the competition. We were actually only supposed to stay with bikes, but it was inevitable that we were going to start cars. So that was the only way we were going to battle Uber and Grab as well. We need to be part of that market. But hey, we had the number of downloads. So we knew that we just need to make sure that the system worked, that the service was optimal. So one of the things that GO-JEK really truly believes in is providing great service. So driver training was it had to be the best that it could be. And then we launched it. So, yeah.
Cool. So I have a question. So what do you think about entrepreneurial, like young entrepreneur in next 3 and 5 years?
Like, are you talking about like what startups would happen? What type of startups would happen? Well, I was just in this conference in Sweden, and I would say a lot of the subjects that were there. It was like kind of like a tech conference. It was TED Talks and all this stuff, and people were mainly focused on tech, of course, fintech in particular. There was a lot of talks about health and medical and lifestyle as well, you're basically thinking about scale, right? That's why I'm glad you brought that question up. It's like, what can you do, and the product and service that you provide that can impact as many people as possible. And in these three spaces, there's still so much room that you can do. So that's that. Even how, if you're talking about what startups also look like, I think that field is also changing. It used to be like you need to have a brick and mortar place. Now you have co-working spaces. So you can and even if you don't have co-working spaces, you can work alone, and your programmer can be in like India, and your like designer can be in like Germany or something like that. So that's also another thing that I see changing. And if you want to survive in startups, it's all about collaboration as well. So basically, try to find other people that have. They may not have the same product and service that you have, but they have the same core values and they believe in the same thing. It's all about collaborating. So
Awesome. We open for 2 questions. Anyone? Okay.
I think you had a question as well.
Just wondering, with this growing wave of social enterprise and companies continually to cater to the emotional aspect in marketing, as you were suggesting, since you have such a large platform, do you ever feel an obligation to, of course, beyond job creation, create a social movement to be impactful via some form of activism?
Are you talking about how we can take what we have in order to, I guess, like create a movement?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Yes. I mean, like the simple answer is yes. I mean, you're basically trying to, I guess, like show to the public that, hey, this is the impact that we've created, and it's just by simple actions from what you do, which is ordering another GO-JEK, right? And with that said, it's like you have kind of like, there is this whole thing. I mean, like one of the things about GO-JEK as well is that it was for Indonesians by Indonesians. So we played the whole nationalistic sort of like marketing movement. And I remember in 2017, we made a very big campaign where it was called Indonesia Ku. And basically, it was the first time that we actually showed that it's not just drivers, it's literally like everyone. And by creating this movement of like, hey, we stand together on bringing an Indonesian product that creates and impacts so many people's lives. So I think that's one of the examples. You know what I mean? Maybe it's in our mind. I mean, I'll tell you right now that GO-JEK Bali is definitely working together with on trying to, I guess, like take the billboards that are already out there and turning them into bags so that we're not wasting as much plastic. I mean, the whole plastic problem and waste is such a very, very big thing. So you can only tackle one problem at a time. But I know that, because Bali is very big with like, reduction of plastic, that we are trying to follow that movement, and we are trying to get people together, and we're trying to show that we're doing something as well.
Cool. So this is the last question.
Mm-hmm.
So because we talk about young entrepreneur, right? So would you mind to give short tips for people who want to become a young entrepreneur or want to become an entrepreneur?
Well, it kind of goes back to that first slide, right? First of all, you got to get shit done. That's one of the things. Don't even think about the idea. Even like just get it going and get started. You might be working in another job. Try just blocking off 30 minutes, 1 hour to make sure that this thing moves forward. You got to have focus as well. I think they did a McKinsey study where the average worker spends about like 60% on like online communication, social media, surfing, and all that. Get that out of the way. Airplane mode your phone. And then you got to have discipline. You got to have patience as well, you know? You might get super excited and you but things just don't happen in like one day. It's a very, very long process, but you got to stick at it. And then I think my biggest take on it, and even me as an individual, I'm still doing this, is you just always got to keep learning. Always do your research. Always try to network, exchange ideas, meet other people, try to collaborate, because doing this on your own, it's going to be really hard. And you could get help. You could get other people to help promote it for you. And yeah, that's my best advice, I guess.
Oh, okay. I will come to you.
See, that's the thing about GO-JEK, is that they were, it was like still like a very new thing, right? And one of the things that I trying to figure this out, because I wasn't part of the legal team. For people to kind of like have motorcycles, and then there's this whole like, I guess, like, how are we gonna get taxed as well? Because this was such an informal infrastructure. They kind of didn't know how to deal with it yet, right? So that's one of the things that I kept in mind. I'm kind of drawing a blank. Sorry. Maybe I'll answer the question a little later on.
Awesome. Let's give applause for Mikey. Oh, last? Okay.
Hold on.
Can we?
We got Gideon.
Okay.
One last one. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, in particular with Bali Praia, is that we've started a music school, and everything with Bali Praia has been kind of like work in progress. I think one of the things that I've kind of like been thinking about is like, of course, you know, how do we create a bigger impact? Creating a bigger impact, you got to go online. And how do you do that with online? I even thought about a business strategy of, or business idea of, you know, you have all these people that are looking for gigs, as you say, or even like, it could be MCs, it could be DJs, and why not connect them with the event organizers? Because that was a problem that I was seeing. There were people asking me, hey, I got a wedding. Do you know any DJs? I'm like, yeah, for sure. And so there's still this gap of how you can, I guess, like put these two people together. But I was running into the problem of, would it be a subscription model that people would have to pay to be on the website? Or will you take a cut? But then the problem with the second part is that what's stopping them from just contacting the DJ or the MC directly? So I'm still working on it, but there's a lot of stuff. Like I even want to try to create like an online school or something like that, because there's a lot of tutorials online in English, of course, but there's not a lot in Indonesian. So that's also another idea that I'm exploring as well. But yeah, I'll get back to you on that, man. It's still work in progress as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Mikey. Please give applause for Mikey.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you so much. This is kind of like inspire session, by the way. I like it. Thank you so much. Oh, I caught one word from Mike. He said like this: it's important to know your capacity, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and how to go about planning future for the business. I like that word, by the way. Thank you so much, Mikey. So yeah, so I will invite our general manager from Tribe Theory Bali and our head chef or food and beverage. Please give applause for Yadavan.
Welcome, welcome.
Another round of applause for Mikey, please. Great speech, by the way. I have to confess first, I didn't prepare for this speech. She told me an hour in advance. I was going to have a beer and enjoy this amazing talk they're going to give. I ended up ordering a bucket. So, moving on. Tribe theory, right? I'm just going to connect a few things that how I became a part of tribe theory and why it's so amazing. So, me, I'm a chef by trade, and I'm a mixologist. So, I work for sweat equity, meaning people invest in me, and I open up a restaurant for them, a bar for them, and after a year, I move on, and I take a certain percentage of the pie. And that's my lifestyle, and I love doing it. I've been doing it for the past 9 years. I've opened 9 restaurants and bars. So about a year and a half ago, I met Vikram, the founder of Tribe Theory. And I was opening one of my restaurants in Singapore, and we were just across the road, and we're having a chat. He's like, oh, I'm opening a hostel. And I'm like, oh, we're doing a pop-up here. And he told me these 3 words, connect, inspire, and power, which I have no idea what he's talking about. We had a lot of wine, by the way. So yeah, I was like, all right, it's a hostel. It's cool. It's a place. About a year down the road in January, when we moved on, I moved on out of the opening this restaurant. I met him again, having wine. And he's like, hey, what are you doing? I said, oh, I just finished a project. Have you been to Bali? I said, no, I haven't been to Bali. So, and then, I was really on the edge of like, should I go, should I not go? And he asked me this question. It's like, you've been doing this for the past 9 years, right? You've been creating brands for people. You've been just building this for everyone. But have you thought about building something for yourself? I never thought of it because I was just in the motion of doing all of this. So he's like, come check us out. So I came to Bali, and I realized what tribe theory is. Not through him, but through the people who are around there. That vibe that he put out, the community that he built, really made sense to the 3 words he told me a year and a half ago. So Tribe Theory connected me to Vikram, the founder. Tribe Theory inspired me to step out of my comfort zone, which I was not doing for the past 9 years. And Tribe Theory empowered me to run my own food and beverage business. So at the end of the day, I always get into this vibe where I always tell young entrepreneurs and digital nomads, Tribe Theory connects young entrepreneurs and digital nomads. It inspires them with great ideas, and we empower them with business opportunities. Thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you, Yeravan. I like it.
Oh, wait, one more thing. Hey, we just opened Tribe Theory Cafe, and today was the first day of our Go Food launch.
Cool.
Go Food, baby.
Thank you so much. And I like this too. Music is the key. Something like us, like connect, inspire, and empower. We like this. So I hope after this one, we can collaborate every time. Yeah, Mikey? Awesome. So thank you for all coming in here. Thank you so much.
I'll be sticking around in case anybody wants to chat. And also, we'll be doing an after party upstairs with some hip hop. So please stick around for that. And yeah, guys, thank you all for coming, and enjoy the rest of the night. Okay,
yes,
cool.
thank you. And by the way, they have a special discount for all of us coming.
Yes,
10%
correct.
discount. So yeah, spend the money. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming, people.
All
Have
right,
a
thank you,
good
guys.
day. Let's go to party.